Welcome to a Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings film review. I'm Ajay Nair, and this video will cover the Chiefs' 23-14 Divisional Round victory over the Texans. If you're here for talk about the NFL being rigged or the Chiefs getting all the calls, you're barking up the wrong tree. I'll direct you to online conspiracy theorists. There are many of them, shouldn't be too hard to find. This video, we're talking about reality, and we're here to talk some football. So let's get into the film review. So let's start with the opening kick of the game. Let's run the play once, and then we'll talk about it. So we've got Kareem kicking off, and he kicks off about to the 5-yard line where Remigio, they set up a middle return with him. He has to make one man miss in the hole, which he does. Cuts it outside, breaks Fairbairn's tackle, then cuts it back in. He's tackled from behind and fumbles, but Ajay falls on it around the 27-yard line. So let's go through how the Chiefs set up this return. So Remigio's back here catching it at the 5-yard line, and the Chiefs are going to block straight up with their first three, and then they are going to double right here. And then they're going to try to wash out this guy, 17, who actually ends up making the tackle. So we got 1, 2, 3. Here's a double there. And then this guy, the idea is to try to get inside of him and block him out so that you've got here, create a hole, get this guy inside, and then a gap is formed in between the two of them. So let's watch how this plays out. So you see the double set up right here. I think I marked the wrong guys. I said these two are doubling. My apologies. It's these two that are doubling. And so they double team right there. And then look at him. You were trying to get inside of him. So run inside. And honestly, 17 has got to do a little better job of maintaining his lane integrity, because the whole idea here is you can't give up a hole if you're the coverage team. And 17 just makes it a little too easy for the Chiefs to wash him out of this hole. So right there, he's spread out, and look at the lane that's created here. Ajay is going to come up and help, but again, the Chiefs have done their job. They created a gap. And what that does is it results in this defender is going to come in, but basically Remigio gets one man to beat, which is what you're trying to do on these returns. Block it up so you get a hole, and you'll have one guy to beat in the hole. This time it's number 11. And if you can beat that guy, it's going to be a big return. And there he's able to spin off the hit right here, and he's off to the races. And then the last line of defense at this point is just the kicker. Most self-respecting return men are going to think they can break a kicker's tackle, which Remigio does here. And then he comes back and cuts it back. And this is 17, the same guy who lost gap integrity. So he's the reason why this return busted in the first place. Right here, it's at this instant where 17 allows himself to be pulled this way. He's got to stay in his gap. And the fact that he allowed himself to be washed out of his gap is what led to this return. And then he comes all the way back to make the tackle and force a fumble. But Ajay was there to fall on it. And then watch 17 afterwards. He's so excited that he forced the fumble. He doesn't even check to see what happened. He goes up to celebrate. And as he runs off, he actually ends up taking off his helmet, which results in a 15-yard penalty, so the Chiefs actually get the ball around the 12-yard line. So 17, number one, lost his gap integrity, which allowed this return to happen. Then celebrating without knowing whether they recovered or not. Like, you've just given up a huge return, and he's celebrating. Takes off his helmet, which results in another 15 yards. So not the best day. And then the camera showed him shoving his coach after. I couldn't really tell. Like, was he excited? What was going on? His coach certainly seemed very surprised to get shoved in the chest. So I don't know what was going on there. Anyway, let's look at this from the end zone view. So here comes the kickoff. And again, as we're noting, the Chiefs are trying to create a gap right up in here. So that how are they doing this? They're going to double right here. This guy is going to try to get inside of 17, and Pirine is going to help block there to create a gap right in the middle for Remigio to go through. So if you watch again, this is where Roland Wallace does a good job of getting inside and getting 17 to come this way to try to get around him, completely leaving his gap and creating the opening that the Chiefs wanted. And here comes Pirine to block, and you can see it right there. There's the opening. 11 is going to come in to try to fill, and that's the guy that Remigio has to make miss. Remigio does so right there, and then it's off to the races. Most guys are going to think they can beat a kicker, which he did. He cut it back inside, and then this is where 17 comes back and forces the fumble, which Pirine falls on. And 17, again, he's getting up and celebrating, not having, you just gave up a huge kick return. You didn't ensure that your team is the one that actually got the ball. And then you take your helmet off and get a 15-yard penalty. So an odd start for the Texans. The Chiefs ended up starting this game 1st and 10 at the Texans' 12-yard line. Travis Kelce and his play have been a topic of discussion for the last couple years now. He had a little bit of a rougher showing last year. It was the first time that he didn't get to 1,000 yards, but then really showed out in the playoffs again. This year, he had the lowest yardage total of his career, only 823 yards. He had the lowest yards per game of his career. And so the question was, is playoff Travis Kelce going to make a return? Was he saving something in the tank? Are we going to see a little more in the playoffs? And you know what? After one game, it looks like the answer is yes. Travis Kelce went for 117 yards, becoming the only player to have 9 postseason 100-yard games in his career, breaking a tie with Jerry Rice. So let's go through some plays from Travis Kelce's performance in this game, and let's see what he was doing. Starting here in the first quarter with 6:55 to go, the Chiefs are lined up on their own 48-yard line. Let's see the play real quick, and then we'll break down what happened. So you see Mahomes in the gun. He's got Pacheco behind him and Gray to his right. He rolls to the right after a play fake and throws a corner pattern to Travis Kelce for a healthy gain. So let's break down what happened. You got the Chiefs in 12 personnel. They've got one running back, Isaiah Pacheco, and their 2 tight ends are Noah Gray and Travis Kelce, both lined up in the backfield. 2 wide receivers are DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy. They're going to motion Noah Gray over to the right. The Texans are essentially looking like they're playing like cover 3 principles here. So you've got like deep third responsibility, deep third responsibility, deep third responsibility, and you've got 4 underneath defenders. The Chiefs start this play with a play action, which is going to bring this level up, so kind of create openings in the intermediate area. They run essentially a levels concept. They get Worthy going deep to try to carry the defender deep. They got Kelce running in that intermediate quarter pattern, and then they have Noah Gray coming out to the flat. So the idea being that Worthy will carry the deep defender, and then the underneath defenders you'll have one guy that's more responsible for the flat, and that person can hopefully get high load by Kelce's route and then Gray's underneath. Aided by the play action bringing these linebackers up, the goal is to create a void underneath for Kelce. And you can see this happen. On this side, we have Hopkins running a dig route over the middle. So here's the play action. The linebackers come up, and Kelce gets the opportunity to just run right by him. Their momentum is coming this way. He's already building up a full head of steam to run past him. There he goes. You have one defender committing to the underneath for Noah Gray, and the defender that's trying to get depth under Kelce is too far up. Kelce's able to run past him, and he gets a nice catch for about, looks like 26 yards, and then gets maybe another yard or 2 before going out of bounds. I'm sure he regrets if he was able to turn the corner a little more nimbly, might have been able to continue down the sideline and get some more yardage. So we can see it from the backfield perspective. Here's Noah Gray in his motion. Again, here's the play action to Pacheco, and look at the linebackers coming up. Those second level defenders, this is the one that him coming up is what prevents him from getting enough depth underneath Kelce. And then you see as they are kind of changing directions, Kelce's momentum is already in this direction and he's having to turn and run. So he's not able to get enough depth behind Kelce. Look at how early this throw is. Like, Kelce's still going into his break right here as Mahomes throws it. Nice anticipation of where Kelce's going to go. They're always on the same page and right there to hit him. And Kelce, unfortunately, is not quite able to turn that corner enough to get up the sideline. But he gets a big gain and a big first down for the Chiefs. We jump ahead to 6:52 to go in the second quarter. At this point, the Chiefs are up 6-3, and they have a 2nd and 10 right around their own 45-yard line. So let's take a look at this play, and then we'll break it down. We've got Mahomes in the shotgun. He's got 3 to his right, 1 to his left, and Pacheco in the backfield. He's making a check at the line. He takes the snap, and as he hits the back of his drop, throws over the middle of Kelce, who makes the safety miss, makes the linebacker miss, and runs it all the way down to about the 6-yard line or so. Huge play for the Chiefs, covered about 49 yards. So let's break down how this happened. All right. So first of all, we've got the Chiefs here in 12 personnel. They've got 1 running back, Isaiah Pacheco, and the 2 tight ends are over here, Noah Gray and Travis Kelce. Wide receivers are Xavier Worthy to the left, Marquise Brown to the right. The Texans are playing cover 1. So typically cover 1 is a man coverage where you have 1 deep safety here in the back. When everybody else is manned up, you will then have 1 extra defender that can be an underneath defender covering underneath zone. However, the Texans blitz this second safety. So since they have 5 people rushing the passer, everybody else on the field besides the deep safety has to cover a man. I typically am not a huge fan of, calling a wide open receiver a blown coverage. In this case, it was a blown coverage. So let's talk about what happened. The Chiefs are running these kind of in and out breaking routes. It's like a longer developing whip route where Worthy's coming in and out, and Hollywood Brown is doing the same thing on this side. Kelce is just running an over route, and Noah Gray's coming out to the flat, and they have Pacheco coming out to the flat on this side. Everybody's supposed to be manned up. So you've got man-to-man here, man-to-man here. This guy's blitzing. You've got man-to-man here. So of these 2, one of them has to take Noah Gray and one of them has to take Kelce. How they decide that kind of depends on the defense's rules. And without knowing their rules, it's kind of hard to say. Some teams will just say, well, you're over him, you got him. You're over here, you got him. Some teams will say, you take the guy that goes inside, you take the guy that goes outside. And there are other similar variations. If one has a deeper breaking route, it might be that we have the DB take it, and if we have a shallower route, we have the linebacker take it. I don't know what rules they were operating on, but if you watch, both of these guys go with Noah Gray to the flat, and nobody runs with Kelce. There's clear miscommunication here and a blown coverage. So Kelce comes to the middle, and we're looking at these 2 defenders since this one blitzed. And watch them both shift over with Noah Gray's flat route. Right here, they both shift over, and nobody is covering Kelce, who feels the void and settles immediately in the middle of the field and allows Mahomes to just hit him right there. This is where he starts really looking like playoff Kelce again. One of the things Travis Kelce has always been good at is he understands leverage based on how he's moving and where defenders are probably positioned, and he's very good at turning away from where he thinks defenders are leveraged. So he's been coming across the middle of the field, and he knows there's a safety behind him. So he anticipates that the safety is coming in this direction the way he was going, so he peels back this way. And lo and behold, he makes a safety miss in the open field. We have not been seeing a lot of that this season. This is where it's really playoff Kelce's back. He's a little more agile than he was in the regular season, and he breaks this tackle, which has not happened a lot. To compound it, then Azeez Al-Shaair tries to come and get him from behind, and he manages through that tackle as well. Still doesn't have the long speed he used to have. I mean, 2016 Kelce is going to take this to the house from this position, right? He doesn't have that long speed anymore, but he takes it all the way down to the 6-yard line. However, this agility was really nice to see. You know, this season, Travis Kelce for the whole season had 18 yards after a broken tackle for the entire year. In this game against the Texans, he had 33 in one game. So, playoff Kelce very much back. We can see it from the end zone cam as well. It's Patrick Mahomes dropping back, and you'll see Kelce flash over the middle. And this is where the two of them are really so well on the same page. Kelce is going to stop his route when he comes over the middle and see the void. But Mahomes doesn't know that while he's throwing it. I guess he might see him kind of, shuffling his feet and slowing down at this point. But they just know what each other are doing. They're both on the same page. Mahomes throws it to a spot where he's going to stop. And then look at this agility. When's the last time we saw Kelce break a tackle like that? And to add insult to injury, Al-Shaair is not able to get him as he goes by. And Kelce gets all the way down to the 6-yard line for a big first down. So we now jump ahead to 2:38 to go in the third quarter. At this point, the Chiefs are up 13-12. And they've got a 3rd down and 6 at their own about 23-yard line. So let's take a look at this play, and then we'll break it down. You got Mahomes in the shotgun. He's got 3 to his right. Kelce ISO'd on the left. He drops back, and he throws a short dump off to Kelce over the middle, who's able to accelerate and get about 12 yards on 3rd and 6. Keep the chains moving for the Chiefs. So let's break down what happened. So we've got the Chiefs in 11 personnel here. That means they've got 1 running back and 1 tight end. That's Travis Kelce. Their 3 wide receivers are from inside out, Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown, and DeAndre Hopkins. The Texans actually play a pretty interesting coverage. So, in general, the first time the Chiefs played the Texans played a lot of man. And the Chiefs had a lot of man beaters, which was one of the reasons they kept that ball moving a lot during that game. The Texans changed things up in this game, and they played a lot of zone. And the main zone that they ran a lot is called quarters, which basically has 4 deep defenders that are each responsible for a quarter of the field deep. The thing about quarters then, since you've got 4 people deep, you only have 3 people underneath. So it's a pretty good coverage to prevent deep passes, but it's a little more limited in preventing shallow passes. The Texans run a very interesting variation of quarters on this play. It's not your standard where you would imagine we got 2 safeties, each of them gets a quarter, the corner over here gets a quarter, and then the corner on that side gets a quarter. What they actually do is they take this linebacker and drop him to take a quarter. The safety gets a quarter, this safety gets a quarter, this corner gets a quarter. And so this guy ends up being a more flat defender, and I think that is useful because it helps him kind of key on Kelce was their thought. I think that's the idea on this coverage, is that, this guy is essentially one-on-one with Kelce. He's an underneath defender. He can kind of do what needs to be done without having to bail out deep. So if you watch at the snap, and so what the Chiefs do with their route combination, they run Juju over the middle, and he's going to try to sit in the middle of the zone. Hollywood runs a deep over behind it, and then DeAndre Hopkins runs down the sideline on more of a 9 route. And Kelce stays in to help chip. And so I think a couple things happen. One, this linebacker has to bail, right? He's coming out. And they don't really fan out and play full quarters because the safety can tell that there is no deep threat on this part of the field. So he's not going to go run out there for no reason. So basically your 4 deep are 1, 2, this linebacker who's bailing, 4. But they're kind of crunched on this side of the field because there's nobody going deep over here. Kelce stays in to block, and then this guy is staying out toward the flat. I have 2. These are the other 2 underneath defenders here. So, sorry, I think I mislabeled. When I said quarters, I said 1, 2, 3. It's actually 1, 2, 3, and on the linebacker. Sorry. Like I said, exotic coverage, easy to get confused. So these 3 are your underneath defenders. So if we watch it play out, see the linebacker drops deep. These are essentially your 4 guys that are running your quarters. And what it would normally look like if the Chiefs had threatened this side of the field, I imagine this guy would have been out. He would have had this quarter. He would have had this quarter. He would have had the sideline. So pretty exotic coverage, right? But it ultimately ends up being 4 deep and 3 underneath. Now, as creative of coverage as that is, it's not ideal for 3rd and 6, right? You're not. I mean, you do want to protect deep, but also you want to prevent something underneath, as this is still something that's gettable by an underneath route. And so the way that the Chiefs run this, they're basically clearing out the zone with Hollywood, Hopkins, and then Juju coming over the middle. And then they chip Kelce and then late run him after the zone defenders have kind of dropped back with the initial receivers. And it works to perfection. So like I said, these 3, not him because he's going back, but the other 3 are playing zone, and you can see them drop back. And then a crucial part, I think this is really brilliant play design from Andy Reid. Juju comes and settles right at the marker, and these 2 underneath defenders close him off because he finds a void, and they're worried the throw is going here. So they are both occupied here. Kelce's coming across. This is the only other underneath defender. He would have been kind of a man-to-man defender if Kelce had broken out, which is what you think might have happened. But instead, it actually ends up being a variation of what Andy Reid likes to do a lot in many cases, is you run guys through an area to clear out the defense and then bring somebody back in behind them after everyone is cleared out. It's a very nice play design. And the key to me is Juju settling right there to occupy these 2 guys, because when Kelce catches this ball, he's still got to make it up here to the 29-yard line. So these defenders' attention to Juju now allows Mahomes to dump this off to Kelce, and he still has to get 4 yards after the catch here. And he's able to do that right there. Juju does a good job as Kelce catches it, kind of giving a good bump right here as a nice little block. And Kelce gets yards after the catch to get a big first down. You can see it from this view here. Again, like a very cool coverage from the Texans. He's the guy who's going to bail out to a quarter and help deep. So he runs back. But again, what ultimately happens, and you can see again the attention on Juju right here. You only have 3 underneath defenders because you're playing quarters. Look at the attention to Juju right here. Both of these guys are coming here, and especially 23 coming here is what allows Kelce to get around after the catch to the space that 23 is vacated. Juju drew the defense. Kelce was able to go into the void and get a big first down. All right, let's jump ahead now. We've got 13:38 to go in the 4th quarter. The Chiefs are up 13-12, and they have a 2nd and 2 on the Texans' 26-yard line or so. Let's take a look at the play, and then we'll break it down. Now we've got Mahomes in the gun with 3 to his left. He drops back and throws it over the middle to Kelce at the 15-yard line. Kelce cuts it back and is able to get around the 8-yard line for a 1st and goal. So, what happened on this play? The Chiefs come out in 12 personnel. Kareem Hunt is the running back. The 2 tight ends are Noah Gray and Travis Kelce. So 1 running back, 2 tight ends gets you 12 personnel. Their 2 wide receivers, Hollywood Brown is over here on the right, and Xavier Worthy is here on the left. The Texans are playing cover 1 man. We talked about earlier that you got 1 deep safety. Everybody else is manned up. And then you have 1 extra defender. This extra defender could be an underneath zone guy, but in this case, like the previous time we talked about, they're extra defender blitzes. So everybody's manned up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have 1 deep safety. And unlike last video we showed you with this coverage, the Texans actually cover everybody properly this time. They understand their assignment. So you know how in basketball, where sometimes when there's like a gotta have it play, the team will essentially like clear out, put 4 guys on the perimeter and leave their best player to just go one-on-one with a defender, just run an isolation play for that one person, everybody else clear out. This play is kind of the football version of that. So what the Chiefs do is they run Hollywood Brown out. They run Kareem Hunt out into the flat. Xavier Worthy literally just stops right here and holds his defender right here, and Noah Gray comes in and out. So essentially they're pulling defenders here, out here, Noah Gray's out here and staying here, and they're leaving the middle of the field completely wide open with this linebacker blitzing. Why are they doing that? They're basically saying, Kelce, you go cook. We're drawing all the defense away. You've got your man one-on-one, and there's 1 guy over the top. You go to the middle of the field and get open. And so, like we said, Worthy just stops. Gray comes in and out. Hunt to the flat. Brown clears out, and Kelce just crosses the face of his defender and goes to the middle. This is as much of a kind of one-on-one ISO like basketball play as you'll see in football. Look where all the other Texans defenders are. Here, 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 here. We're just giving you this open area. Andy Reid is designing this open area for Kelce, drawing all the defense away. You go beat your man and get open. And that's exactly what Kelce does. Again, such a good route runner. Watch him come up, do a little stutter to the outside, and cross the face of the defender. Boom, he's open. And again, as we talked about, Kelce understanding the leverage. I'm coming over the middle. Look, this defender's coming this way. He doesn't see this, but he's assuming this guy must be coming to that side too because all my momentum's in this direction. So what does he do when he makes the catch? Stops, turns it back the other way. Helps him get some more yards after the catch before he can get tackled. But this is really cool play design from Andy Reid. He's essentially drawing this up to draw all the defenders here, 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 and just leave this whole box of space for Kelce to go play. This is a you go cook, go get open. That's what Kelce did. And then he peeled it back, understanding the leverage, and got a first down. 1st and goal for the Chiefs at the 8. You can see it from Mahomes' perspective now. He drops back. He sees Kelce coming right over the middle. And look at him cut back using the defender's momentum against him. Get a big first down. Now we're on the same drive. 11:57 to go in the 4th quarter. The Chiefs have 3rd and goal. Still up 13-12. Let's run this play and then we'll break it down. We got Mahomes in the gun. He's got 3 to his right, 1 to his left with Samaje Perine in the backfield with him. Drops back to throw, pockets collapsing, tries to escape, and as he's falling, throws a strike to Travis Kelce for a touchdown. What a fantastic throw. But let's break down what happened here. So the Chiefs come out in 11 personnel. Their 1 running back is Samaje Perine. Their tight end is out on the end, Travis Kelce. And the wide receivers are Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, and DeAndre Hopkins. The Texans, like we discussed earlier, they run another quarters coverage. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, each responsible for a quarter of the end zone. and they have 3 underneath defenders dropping to help in coverage. So what the Chiefs do to combat this, they have Xavier Worthy is going to come across and settle in the middle of the end zone. Travis Kelce is going to run a similar track and initially settle at the goal line and then pop back. And Hollywood Brown is going to cross over and run an out route. And so one of the intents of this kind of route is you can try to get this quarter defender with this route crossing his face to follow and leave the out route area as he replaces and maybe get this guy wide open, Hollywood Brown, on the out route. DeAndre Hopkins comes in from his side and settles in the end zone. But what ends up happening, and I wonder if this is like a timing issue with the Chiefs, you would think that with this route combination with Kelce coming over and Brown coming behind, you'd think you'd want Kelce to go in front to draw this defender with him, and then Brown to cross over. But for whatever reason, with the timing of how things went, Brown ended up crossing first. Kelce actually had to slow down to let him go by. And maybe if like this throw is immediately out on time, this can, Brown's open here. But Patrick Mahomes is dealing with a pocket that's collapsing from the front. So he's in no position to throw this ball as Brown is making his break. He's trying to step through and honestly is probably thinking about running right now. Or at least challenging the line of scrimmage so that he can create some voids in the zone. But unfortunately, he gets grabbed by this defensive tackle. And so he's not able to kind of threaten the scramble with the intensity that I'm guessing he probably would want to. But as Mahomes is stepping up in the pocket, Kelce is completing his route, and there's one little bit of it that I think is very important. So Kelce comes up, and watch his footwork here as he's crossing the 5-yard line and getting toward the goal line. He comes and he turns right here, facing the quarterback, and kind of stutters a little bit right there, as if he kind of turns his hips like he's about to stop and settle right there. And that's key because if you notice right after that, Azeez Al-Shaair jumps over right there. And I think Kelce notes this as he does it. And so he kind of does a fake stop right there, turns his hips, and then as Al-Shaair moves this way, Kelce comes back behind in the void that he vacated right at the time as Mahomes needs to get the ball off, and Mahomes throws it into that void for a touchdown. I really think Kelce created this opening by right here kind of faking that he's stopping right there, and that's what got Al-Shaair to commit and created just enough of an opening for Kelce to settle and Mahomes to get the ball into him for a touchdown. And, I mean, to be able to throw this ball accurate, to be honest with you, like when I saw this on the broadcast view and I saw Mahomes' ankle being grabbed and him falling and throwing this, I thought this ball was going to go into the dirt or it was going to come short and get intercepted. I cannot believe he was able to make an accurate pass like that. That's insane. What an incredible... I don't know that we'll see a better throw during this playoffs. That is incredible to be able to hit that spot like that. Big touchdown for the Chiefs. They ended up kicking the extra point and going up 8. So here is the play from Mahomes' perspective. You see he's looking right the whole way. And here he starts to feel the pocket collapsing and he sees this void. And Mahomes is one that when he has the opportunity, he likes to challenge the scramble with his legs, even if it is to just get defenders to come up and commit and to allow him to throw into open areas. So here he steps up, but 97 does a great job getting him, and Mahomes knows he's going to have to release this. And look at how he's able to make this throw perfectly. And you can see, you can't see Kelce stutter here, but that's what causes Al-Shaair, who's standing here initially, to move right there. It was Kelce's stutter, and that gets Al-Shaair to move over. And look at Kelce fill behind. And Mahomes and Kelce are on the same page. Mahomes is throwing this ball before Kelce is here. But he knows what he's doing. He knows what Kelce's doing. Kelce goes and sits in that area. Alshire can't get to it because he vacated the zone. Kelce gets a touchdown. Chiefs go up 20-12. All right, now that we've taken a look at playoff Kelce, let's hop back to the first quarter. And we've got the Chiefs in 2nd and 10 at the 29-yard line of the Texans in a 3-3 game. Let's run this play, and then we'll take a look at what happened. We've got Worthy and Hunt in the backfield. They just rotated, switched spots. Mahomes in the shotgun. Worthy shifts to his left. Mahomes drops back and throws left to Worthy, who goes up and gets it for about 21 yards and a 1st and goal. So, what happened on this play? We've got the Chiefs coming out in 11 personnel. There's one running back, that's Kareem Hunt, and one tight end, that's Travis Kelce. They've got 3 wide receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown. The Texans are going to play a cover 1 man. They've got 1 deep safety, and they've got 1 underneath defender, and everybody else is playing man-to-man. So, man-to-man here, or man-to-man there. Man-to-man, man-to-man, man-to-man. And I believe this ends up being our underneath defender in the coverage. Yeah, right here. So you've got 1 underneath, 1 deep, everybody else is manned up. So the Chiefs on the right side here kind of run a concept that they run pretty frequently. They have Travis Kelce coming up and Juju Smith-Schuster coming on a curl, and they're trying to create traffic. There are 3 defenders here, one of whom is guarding Kareem Hunt. And so the goal is to create enough traffic up here so that this defender can't get over and run Kareem Hunt on a swing route and see if you can hit him and get him going down the sideline. Unfortunately for them on that side, this defender does a pretty good job of scraping over the top and getting over the top of Hunt. So the concept doesn't really work, but what really ends up happening then is you've got 3 guys, none of whom is open on this side. Travis Kelce kind of pops open late, but as you see, Mahomes is already throwing this ball. Mahomes doesn't even look like he reads the right side of the field. He looks like he's actually starting on the left side. And what you've got on the left is you've got Hollywood Brown coming in on a whip route, where he'll go in and out, and then Xavier Worthy from the backfield running a wheel route. The nice thing about this is the Texans have good corners. You know, they've got Petrie here, and they've got Stingley on this side. And if you notice, Mahomes didn't really go at the corners too much during this game. And so I think there was some intentionality here getting Worthy in the backfield and then getting him manned up against a safety. Because what ends up happening, the Chiefs take this look, much better to have him on a safety than on a corner. And Mahomes, look at when he decides to throw this ball, right here. So he really has a lot of faith that Worthy's going to be able to turn this up and go get this ball over the safety. Part of the reason Mahomes has to get this out quickly is that Danielle Hunter has given Joe Thuney a lot of trouble on this snap. And Thuney wasn't able to get hands on him to prevent him from bending. And he tried to force him as much as he could around the corner, but Hunter still kind of got there toward Mahomes. So Mahomes had to make this throw quickly. He decides to throw now, when Worthy is still making his turn. But he puts the ball out and up there, and Worthy does a great job of tracking it. And look how late he gets his hands out. It goes up and gets it. Huge play for the Chiefs. That's an awesome play by Worthy. You can see it here. There's the shift. And you've got Murray on Worthy. So as he comes out, Mahomes, as you can see, isn't really reading the right side of the field at all. He probably seems to be looking at Hollywood's whip route first. So if you want to look at what happened in Hollywood's whip route, he comes in and the corner does a good job of shoving him. He's within 5 yards. So he shoves him here and disrupts the route. that's not really an option. And so I think Mahomes came off of the whip route and looked over at Worthy and decided to give him a chance. Threw the ball up there for him, and Worthy rewarded him with a great catch. Very good prognostically for how Worthy is going to develop. That's kind of the next thing with him is, can he make those tough catches that are contested here? And he went up and got that one. The Chiefs' pass rush had a great day against the Texans and really increased in its effectiveness, especially in the fourth quarter. Let's break down several of the plays where the Chiefs were able to generate pressure and 8 sacks today, and talk about what they were doing on these plays. So we'll start in the first quarter. There's a minute 47 to go in the quarter, and the Chiefs are up 6-3 at this point. Let's take a look at this play. This is a third down play. It's 3rd and 8 or so for the Texans. So CJ Stroud is in the gun. He drops back and immediately is pressured by Chris Jones off the edge. Chris Jones collects the sack and ends up causing a 4th down and a punt. So what the Chiefs are doing lined up here is they've got Omenihu, Mike Dana, Turk Wharton, and Chris Jones lined up as down linemen, and they have Nick Bolton coming and filling in. So what ultimately happens is the Texans account for Omenihu, Dana, and then Wharton is accounted for. Or sorry, this isn't Wharton. This is George Karlaftis. My apologies. George Karlaftis is accounted for by the center. The right guard has to account for Nick Bolton in case he's blitzing, and so that puts Chris Jones against their right tackle, who's a rookie. The Chiefs actually run a stunt. So they take Mike Dana and try to run him into the left tackle. Karlaftis takes the center and tries to push into the guard. So they're trying to occupy these 3 linemen. And then Charles Omenihu loops around and he's trying to hit the gap between the center and the guard, the A gap on the offense's right. Chris Jones, for his rush, just tries to beat the tackle around the edge. So as you see this developing, you can see here comes the initial rush. You see Dana's already pushing outside, and you see Karlaftis pushing in that direction too. Nick Bolton's coming up to make sure that the right guard remains occupied, and Omenihu is about to start his curl around for his stunt. Here comes Omenihu around, and as you can see, Chris Jones, as he comes on his rush right here, is able to swat the hands of the tackle almost immediately, get them off of him, and get around. He's already got a win. I mean, this is as quick of a win as you can get. You see Omenihu coming around, and he's trying to hit that A gap as Karlaftis tries to push the center. The center actually does a good job of coming off and at least impeding Omenihu a little bit, but none of it matters because Chris Jones has won immediately off the edge. And before CJ Stroud has a chance to figure out what's going on, he's hitting the back of his drop, and he already has Chris Jones is on him. So Stroud tries to escape but can't, and Jones gets him down for a big sack. Now, it's fortunate for the Chiefs that the defensive line won so quickly because the secondary was in quite a bit of confusion. You can see here to start, Nazi Johnson and Chris Roland Wallace don't really seem to know what's going on. They're trying to communicate with each other. Roland Wallace is then looking over at Shamari Connor like, hey, what's going on? What are we running here? Connor's trying to tell him something, and Roland Wallace ends up on a delayed blitz that is essentially makes him useless because he's not coming fast enough to actually affect the quarterback, and he's not covering anybody. I almost feel like as he's going right now, Connor's telling him like, no, don't do it. Like it's a bust. Just come back. Like look at Connor's hands here. I think he's saying like, no, don't do it. But he's gone. So if Stroud had some time, we basically have these 3 coming out of a bunch, and the only one near him to start is Shamari Connor. He might have been able to hit this. He might have been able to hit this. But look what's going on with Stroud. He's already enveloped by Chris Jones. So the pass rush here really saved the secondary, who seemed to be in a lot of confusion, letting guys run free. So the Texans might have been able to convert this, but Chris Jones did a great job getting there and getting the sack. So now from the end zone cam, remember what we're talking about. Omenahue's accounted for here. This is the tight end. Omenahue's accounted for here. Dana, Karlaftis, Bolton, Chris Jones. Now, what they try to do, Dana's going to try to come in at the tackle. Karlaftis is going to try to take the center and bring him over so that Omenahue has a chance to come around. And so let's run this. Here you can see Karlaftis is engaged with the center. He's trying to move everything over this way. And Omenahue's trying to come around. Bolton's occupying the guard, and Chris Jones is about to win already. There goes Jones around the edge. Here comes Omenahue trying to come on his stunt. The center, like I said, did a good job of kind of hanging with him a little bit and making it difficult, but Chris Jones is already here disrupting this play. CJ Stroud has no chance. Jones does a good job of not letting him escape and bringing him down for the sack. So we move ahead to the second quarter. The Texans are down 6-3, and they have a 3rd and 5 at the Chiefs' 34-yard line. Let's take a look at the play, and then we'll break down what happened. We've got Stroud in the gun. He takes the snap, and Charles Omenahue strips him almost immediately after. Shaq Mason ends up falling on it, but it ends up being a loss of about 3. So let's take a look at what happened. So the Chiefs have Justin Reed over the tight end in the slot, and they have Nick Bolton, who's mugging up the A-gap to the right side of the Texans' offensive line. So the way that it looks like things should be set up is you'd imagine that they would slide the line to the right, because then you'd have everybody accounted for here. Kind of send the center to keep an eye on Nick Bolton, then you'd have the right guard and right tackle one-on-one over here, and the left guard and left tackle one-on-one over here. But it looks like this Texans decide to slide their protection to the left, and I don't really know how to explain why they did that. Because what ends up happening is the right guard has 2 potential people coming at him, and so typically what people are taught is you squeeze to the inside guy and let the outside guy go. And so he tries to get a hand on Charles Omenahue, who brushes by that quickly, and then he keeps his focus on Nick Bolton, who ends up not blitzing anyway and dropping back. So Omenahue ends up almost being free, like he basically just got one right hand from the right guard. So he comes in right through free, right through the B gap, and CJ Stroud has no time to do anything. Omenahue comes in right immediately. Stroud is barely back in his drop, ready to throw, and Omenahue already stripped the ball. A lot of credit here to Omenahue for getting to the ball so quickly. He has really shown prowess at stripping the ball. I mean, he had that big strip of Lamar Jackson in the AFC Championship game last year. He's done great to get his hand on the ball, but I don't understand the Texans' protection here. I'm not sure why they had the center slide left. He ultimately just ends up double-teaming Mike Dana and leaving the Chiefs having 3-on-2. Even though Bolton does ultimately bail, they have the right guard focused on Bolton, which allows Omenahue to come in free. And there's really nothing that Stroud can do. I mean, none of his receivers have even gotten going into their routes. This is such a quick win and sack. Let's look at it from the end zone view here. And again, as you can see, Bolton is making his presence felt right here. So I'm not really sure why they didn't slide the protection this way. Instead, as you can see, the center goes left, and the guard is left to decide what to do with Bolton and Omenihu. So you see him he puts his right hand out here to try to impede the path of Omenihu a little bit, but ultimately he's looking at the inside guy. If you look at where his helmet is, he's looking straight ahead at Bolton. He's the guy he's worried about because he doesn't want to give up pressure through the A gap. He'd rather give it up through the B gap. Well, the problem is that A gap pressure is never coming. But he's already let Omenihu loose through the B gap. Stroud is looking left. He doesn't even see him initially, which is what allows Omenihu to get at the ball. But Stroud has no time to do anything. I mean, Omenihu just comes in free. At least Mason fell on it to prevent the turnover, but the Texans would actually miss the subsequent field goal, so that didn't really help that much either. It's strange. I think the Texans really had the protections confused on this one, and that'll happen with the Chiefs in many cases, but in this case, it seemed unnecessary. Another big sack for the Chiefs. So now we're at 41 seconds to go in the second quarter. Texans are down 13-3, and they have a 2nd and 5 around the Chiefs' 20-yard line. Let's take a look at this play, and then we'll break it down. We got Stroud in the gun. He's got 2 to his left, 2 to his right. He motions Schultz out wide to the left. Takes the snap. Steps back, looks left, looks right, and has nothing, and is swallowed up by Tershawn Wharton and then Mike Dana. So let's see what happened here. We've got the Chiefs just rushing 4, and this time the Texans slide their protection toward Chris Jones. So they've got the guard and the center are blocking Chris Jones. Tackle on the right has Karlaftis. The guard has Tershawn Wharton, and the tackle over here has Mike Dana. The Chiefs are playing quarters coverage, so they've got 4 deep. Each guy has a quarter of the field, and then 3 underneath defenders. So when Stroud takes the snap, he starts by looking over to his left. Over here, he's got a receiver going deep and Jalen Watson running with him, and then he's got an out route. And Drew Tranquil does a great job of sticking with this out route right here. I mean, this is a linebacker running with a receiver, and he does a great job of closing that off. So when Stroud has nothing there, he looks back over to his right, and here he's got Connor running with the out route over here. He's got Nico Collins running an in-cut with Jaden Hicks driving down over that. And then the one thing he does have is his check down over here. But Nick Bolton, as you see, kind of drives down on that too. So as Stroud is surveying, Tershawn Wharton especially, but also Mike Dana, do a good job of walking their respective matchups back into the pocket. And look at Wharton walk so far back that here when Stroud is thinking about the check down, he pulls back partially, I'm sure, because of Bolton's presence, but partially because he's under duress. He notices the pressure, his eyes come down, and Wharton gets him. Also, a lot of credit to Mike Dana. I mean, he's being blocked by Laramie Tunsil, who's a great left tackle, and he manages to walk him back and then disengage here and help around the edge to get this sack. So this one was a little more of a combination. You know, the first 2 sacks we saw, one was a quick win by Chris Jones. The second was a combination of a quick win and an odd, I think protection setup mistake by the Texans that allowed Omenihu to get through. But this one was a little more of a slow burn sack. I mean, it was a great job by these 2 collapsing the pocket, but it was also great coverage by the back end that allowed the time for the sack to occur. And there you can see, I mean, Wharton just consistently, methodically walking back his guard. And then look at Dana. I mean, Laramie Tunsil's no slouch, and he's just pushing him back. And he manages to disengage right as Wharton gets to Stroud, and they bring him down for a sack. So the rest of the plays in this review of the Chiefs' pass rush are all going to come from the fourth quarter. The Chiefs really dialed up the heat. Steve Spagnuolo started blitzing like crazy in the fourth quarter, and he was extremely effective at generating pressure and slowing down the Texans. The Texans had that long drive where they scored a touchdown to make it 13-12 in the third quarter, and they didn't score again. Their offense didn't score again in the game. They did end up getting 2 points when the Chiefs intentionally took a safety while running out the clock. But the offense really struggled in the fourth quarter, and a big reason was the pressure generated off of blitzes. So let's take a look at this play. There's 10-13 to go in the fourth quarter at this point. The Chiefs are up 20-12, and this is a 2nd and 10. We're actually going to take a look at 3 consecutive plays, starting with this 2nd and 10 play. So let's take a look at it, and then we'll break down what happened. We've got Stroud in the gun. He's got 3 to his right. He drops back, and Nick Bolton's immediately in his face, so he throws it up and is unable to complete it to his wide receiver, bringing us to 3rd down. So let's break down what happened on this play. To start, Spags has both Bolton and Tranquil up at the line. So the Texans here are accounting for the fact that they may have 6 blitzing, 6 rushing, and only having 5 in to block. So it looks kind of like a cover 0 pressure, because if these 6 are coming, that means there are only 5 defenders left to guard the 5 eligible receivers. So there's no deep safety, which is is the reason why it's called cover 0. 0 people deep. So what the Texans decide to do is slide their protection to the left. So they're going to have the tackle account for Dana. They're going to have the guard account for Tranquil's potential blitz, and the center is going to slide over to take Chris Jones one-on-one. The right guard here is then going to take Wharton, and the right tackle is going to take the edge over here, Karlaftis. Bolton kind of comes up a little bit later. So see, he's starting over here, which is probably why they slid left. They were more worried about Tranquil. But then Bolton comes and inserts late. And so with their protection sliding left, they end up letting Bolton through free as the extra rusher. To make matters worse for them, Tranquil doesn't blitz. He ends up running with the running back. And so they end up having their left guard blocking nobody. The Chiefs actually only rush 5, and they have 5 to block. But since their left guard's blocking air, Bolton's coming free. I think one critique that one could make is maybe the protection should have been set up so that the tackle squeezed in and blocked Bolton, and they left Karlaftis free because it was a little longer path. You know, the farther you are toward the edge, the longer path it is to run to the quarterback. So typically, the last place you want to let someone go free is through the A gap between the center and the guard. The second to last place is the B gap between the guard and the tackle. You'd rather have somebody going through the C gap between the tackle and the tight end. But for whatever reason, the Texans decided with their protection to let Bolton free through the B gap. And Stroud really has no option but to just get rid of it. He's trying to throw this. He knows he has a corner pattern over here, but he has to throw it so early. He's not able to tell or get an idea. They're not on the same page as what angle he's going to break out at. It looks like Stroud thinks he's going to go a little deeper. He ends up going a little flatter. And so the ball ends up being above and behind him. Actually, the receiver does a really good job of trying to adjust to this ball and make a catch, but it's kind of a hopeless situation. It's just going to be a guess from Stroud. He's so rushed. He's just throwing it up there and hoping his guy can go get it, and they weren't able to connect. But it really started with the way that Spags played with numbers up here at the line in order to confuse protections and get Bolton to come free. Now you see it from the end zone view. They're looking to account for Tranquil and Bolton, and like we said, what they end up doing is you have Dana, you have Tranquil, you have Chris Jones, you have Wharton, and you have Karlaftis, and they're letting Bolton in free if he blitzes, which is what happens. Bolton comes in free. Tranquil does not blitz, so you have the left guard doing nothing. And Bolton's able to force a quick throw and an incompletion. One thing, too, is I think there was a little bit of confusion between Tranquil and Justin Reed. It kind of looks like Justin Reed might have thought that Tranquil was actually blitzing, and it really was cover zero, because Justin Reed went over to try to run with the running back as well. But with Tranquil going with the running back, theoretically, this could have been cover one. Justin Reed could have been the deep safety. But I don't know why Reed went over. My guess, it kind of looks like he thought that Tranquil was blitzing, but could be another reason that I'm not aware of. Either way, this was the start of a lot of pressure that would start coming from Steve Spagnuolo in the fourth quarter. All right, so like I said, we're doing 3 consecutive plays here. So we just saw the 2nd and 10. Here's the 3rd and 10 now. 10:08 to go in the fourth quarter. Texans down 20-12. So here, I'll look at what they're looking at. So they start by seeing Karlaftis, Chanel, Wharton, Bolton, and Chris Jones. And then, at the last minute, Justin Reed comes up and sits in the A-gap as well. Now, what it looks like is they didn't change their protections to account for Justin Reed. So initially, with it like this, they seem to be sliding their protection to the right. So they've got the center getting Turk Wharton, the guard getting Leo Chanel, and they actually have the tackle and tight end helping out on George Karlaftis. And the guard over here will get Nick Bolton, and the tackle will get Chris Jones. But at the last minute, Justin Reed, right before, so this indication right here is the silent indication that they're going to snap the ball, the guard tapping the center. So right before that happens, Justin Reed comes in, and he doesn't seem to be accounted for in their protection whatsoever, and he comes free through the A-gap, which, as we said, is the worst place to allow a free rusher. He's got a straight line to the quarterback and comes right through free. Again, C.J. Stroud has no chance. He just tries to get a little dump off to Damian Pierce, who had been helping, trying to chip Chris Jones on his way out, so he wasn't really ready for a route anyway. Stroud just tries to get one off, and it looks like Reed might have actually tipped it or hit his hand, as that ball just fluttered and died. But another time, Spags confusing the Texans' protection, this time by bringing in somebody late. So here is how things seem to be accounted for. It seems like they've got, all right, you for you, right here, and then these two end up blocking Karlaftis. But then at the last minute, Reed comes in, they're ready to snap it, and so Reed comes free. They don't have a quick hot option. I mean, it's tough when you have someone screaming down the B gap, especially a DB who's so fast. And Stroud has no chance and has to throw it away for the 2nd consecutive play, an incompletion due to a free rusher coming through on the blitz. All right, so here's the 3rd of the 3 consecutive plays. We're now at 4th and 10. Of note, the Texans got out of the huddle really late for this 4th down, so they did not have a lot of time to try to set anything up at the line of scrimmage. Honestly, I consider it almost coaching malpractice that they have a 4th and 10. We're talking about 10 minutes to go in the game. It's 20-12, they're down. They're at the Chiefs' 40-yard line. They weren't able to get a play in or make a decision until very late in the play clock. They're scrambling to get lined up, and they decided not to take a timeout. I don't know why you'd rather essentially throw a huge risk up on your 4th and 10 play to try to turn over the ball on downs rather than just burn a timeout in this situation. I think coaches, in many cases, I mean, we've seen it throughout the last couple of weeks with timeout usage in the NFL, they cling to these timeouts too much in these situations where you can't waste a 4th and 10 play. And when you're scrambling with a young team and that you haven't gotten things figured out, it's a really bad spot to put your team in. And, well, let's break down what happened on this one. Here, let's run it once and then we can break it down. Here, Stroud takes it off the gun, and Karlaftis gets around the edge quick and gets a huge sack. So not only do they not get 4th down, they move the ball even farther back to turn it over on downs to the Chiefs. I can't believe. If you know you're going for it on 4th down, you should know you're going for it on 4th down. Why is the play getting in that late? And once you have screwed it up, just call timeout. Why are you wasting this down? This was a huge coaching mistake from DeMeco Ryans. But let's break down the Chiefs' pressure package here. They've got 3 down linemen. Karlaftis on the edge here, Chris Jones on the edge here, and this looks like Turk Wharton in the middle. And then they've got Justin Reed up here, they've got Nick Bolton here, and they've got Jaden Hicks up over Dalton Schultz. So what the Texans do in this case is they slide their protection to the right. So they've got Chris Jones being blocked here, and Nico Collins actually helps with a chip. Then you've got Bolton, Wharton, and Reed all being handled here. But what ends up happening is they slide everything over so that the tackle actually ends up coming to try to help with Reed. And they end up having 3 here block 2. And on one hand, that lets Jaden Hicks through, which ends up not being as much of a problem because the running back picks him up. But the biggest problem with that is it leaves Karlaftis one-on-one with Dalton Schultz, who has no chance of blocking him. But this is the kind of... Now, we've seen that the Texans have been odd with some of their protection calls before that have allowed the Chiefs to get quick pressure. So maybe this would have happened anyway. But I'm sure the fact that they were rushing in a play on 4th and 10 didn't help. And ultimately, Dalton Schultz, just no match whatsoever for Karlaftis, who beats him like a drum around the edge. The Chiefs held up pretty well in coverage. Stroud has nowhere to go with the ball. And so Karlaftis just has the opportunity to chase him down and get a huge loss on the sack. But if you see, everything else kind of goes okay. Jaden Hicks is met here. Chris Jones is stoned well enough by the right tackle, but here there are 4 linemen blocking 3 people right here. And to have that and then to have this happen at the same time, that's just poor protection calling. Spags with his blitz gets him again. This time I feel like it was a little more self-inflicted because they were in such a hurry. So again, we can see it better from over here. They end up having... You block Chris Jones, and then since the tackle here crashes down, there are these 3, Bolton, Wharton, and Reed, and they're being blocked by these 4 linemen. That's just really poor protection call. And because of that, Hicks is able to come through. I think Hicks was really just going to guard Dalton Schultz, and so he blitzed because Schultz was part of the protection. But the running back does a good job picking that up. The problem is that Schultz is no match for Karlaftis. Look how easily he just beats it. I mean, he just runs right around him. He's not even worried about engaging his hands. He's just like, bye. And the coverage held up. CJ Stroud was sacked, and the Chiefs get a turnover on downs in Texans territory. So we're now at 4:38 to go in the game. The Texans have 1st and 10 at their own 30-yard line, and they're down 23-12. Let's take a look at this play, and then we'll break it down. We've got Stroud in the gun. He's got 2 to his left, 2 to his right. Drops back to throw and gets sacked by George Karlaftis. So let's take a look at this one. So here we just have a simple 4-man rush from the Chiefs. They have Nick Bolton kind of come mug up, and I think that is important because that causes the protection to slide left, which allows both Chris Jones and George Karlaftis to be one-on-one. The center is not coming over to help on Chris Jones, which I think was the point of this, to try to get Chris Jones one-on-one against the guard. The Chiefs defensively are playing cover 2 man. They've got 2 deep safeties, and then they're just manned up across the board. They do a good job of topping the Texans' routes. The Texans try to run these parallel deep routes, and the safeties get on top of both of them, and the corners do a good job trailing. Then Najee Johnson does a good job of running with the drag route, and then Dalton Schultz comes over on an in-cut, and Justin Reed does a good job of running with that. So Stroud doesn't really have anywhere to go. But anyway, the pressure from Karlaftis ends up being pretty quick. You can see Karlaftis getting around the edge. It's not as quick as the Chris Jones sack we showed earlier, but Stroud really doesn't have a chance to even go through progressions. He's kind of looking 1 to maybe 2, and then Karlaftis is on him. And then as you see, he doesn't really have a lot. Brian Cook is doing a good job of staying on top of this. Jaden Hicks is coming over to stay on top of this. Bolton does a good job running into the flat, so there isn't a lot for him, and this Karlaftis gets on him pretty quickly. This is pretty good from him coming around the edge. This is just a one-on-one win. Gets around the edge, gets a sack. So a little bit of a departure from what we had seen earlier, where there were some one-on-one wins in the first half, but in the fourth quarter, the Chiefs really started heating them up with the blitz. But here they dropped back to just rushing 4, and were still able to get pressure. So you see here the line sliding this way, partially I think because of Bolton's presence, but Bolton ends up running with the running back, and then you got one-on-one here and one-on-one here. Chris Jones puts in a pretty good rush too, putting pressure, but Karlaftis just wins very quickly around the edge. Stroud is looking at his deep routes that are topped by the safeties. He's got nowhere to go, and Karlaftis with a big sack. Really encouraging to see these one-on-one pass rushes from the Chiefs' defensive line, because although we always trust Spags and we know he's going to come through with some big blitzes, he always does, but it's nice to see that when they rush 4, they're able to get some good pressure too in some of these crucial moments. All right, now we're going to show you consecutive plays again, starting with this play here with 3:27 to go in the fourth quarter. Texans still down 23-12, and they've got a 1st and 10 at the Chiefs' 48-yard line. Let's run through the play, and then we'll talk about it. Here, Stroud drops back to pass, and Bolton's right in his face. He flips it to his running back, who ends up getting back up toward the line of scrimmage for no gain. So what do the Chiefs do this time? They've got Bolton, and they've got Reed up near the line of scrimmage. And they've got Connor up over the slot. So the way that the Texans are looking at this, they've got to account for Karlaftis, and they've got to account for Remigio over here. They end up then thinking they've got 3 for Jones, Bolton, and Dana over here. So they've got 1, 2, 3 for these 3. These 2, and then they've got the running back as the extra protector for whoever comes through. But the Chiefs are not doing exactly what it looks like they're doing. They actually have Karlaftis and Reed drop, so the right tackle is not doing anything. Additionally, they have Bolton blitz on the guard, and then Connor comes from the slot. So they're trying to overload blitz on the guard and then drop these guys off in the back end. So they're ultimately only rushing 5 after showing 6, and that 5th rusher is a guy that they hadn't really been showing as a blitzer. So what happens is the guard on the left is being left to choose between Bolton versus Connor. Typically, the rules tend to be that you take the inside guy and let the outside guy go free. And it looks like he's going to do that at the start. He's kind of looking toward Bolton and then moves toward Connor. The problem is that not only does he let someone in through the A gap instead of the B gap, which is less preferable, his running back is expecting him to leave the Connor free. Look at the running back behind him in protection. Especially after he kind of makes that initial move, the running back is prepping to take Connor. But then the guard fakes his running back out and comes and gets Connor, and the running back doesn't have time to get to Bolton, and so Bolton just comes through free. So the left guard essentially confuses his running back. They had enough to block this. They've got two coming through, and they've got the guard, and they've got the running back behind. But since the guard made it seem like he was blocking Bolton and then ultimately got Connor, the running back was not in position to get Bolton. And so they both end up going toward Connor, and Bolton comes free. Fortunately for them, he's able to dump it off to the running back and gain some yardage back, so it's not a sack. So you can see it from here. These two drop. So the right tackle ends up having nothing to do. The center comes over to help, and the left guard is left to decide between Connor and Bolton. And watch what the left guard does. So see, he kind of makes it look like he's taking Bolton here. And look, the running back is preparing for Connor coming through the B gap. But then he fakes out his own running back and he slides over here and leaves Bolton free. And the running back doesn't have the ability to come back and get him. Very strange. Bolton comes through free, and Stroud does a good job of just flipping this to the running back and at least salvaging some yardage so that it's no gain. 2nd and 10 now upcoming. All right, so this is the next play. 2nd and 10 here, 3:03 to go in the fourth quarter with the Texans down 23-12. Let's run it, and then we'll talk about what happened here. The Chiefs have 4 down. They're mugging it up. Stroud drops back. He doesn't see anything he likes, so he tries to step up, but gets tackled by Shamari Connor. Officially goes down as a sack because he lost 1 yard. So the Chiefs, again, are showing pressure. This time they're showing Connor, Bolton, and Reed here, and they've got the 4 down linemen. But what they end up doing this time is Reed and Karlaftis drop out. So again, they only rush 5. They've got Chris Jones, Amenahue, Bolton, Connor, and Mike Dana on the edge. So this time, the Texans end up sliding protection. So they end up losing initially Karlaftis and Reed. And so they have these 2 linemen not really doing anything, but the right tackle comes to help out on Chris Jones, and the left tackle comes to help out on Charles Amenahue. They end up letting Connor loose. So this time they actually did what we thought they should do last time. The guard takes Bolton, they let Connor loose, and the back picks him up. So they actually picked up the pressure pretty well here. Problem being that nobody was open. So as Stroud drops back, he has across the field if he wants to really try to launch one for a shorter gain. But otherwise, everyone's pretty well bracketed, and Stroud steps through and thinks that he can kind of get outside and get some yardage here, which he had been doing a good job of doing in this game. He did pretty well with his legs, but Bolton did a good job coming around, and Stroud ended up cutting back, and that gave Shamari Connor enough time to get him from behind for the sack. So this one, again, even though there was a blitz called, the Texans actually picked it up pretty well, but the coverage is what really allowed for the sack to happen. That and some good contain on the front end from Bolton. So here, as you see, they do get the overload here, but it's 3 linemen and running back on 4 rushers. On this side, Chris Jones is there with a double team as the tackle comes back to help Dalton Schultz. But they picked it up pretty well, and Connor is kind of slowly getting through. But by this time, Stroud sees no one open. He knows there's a blitz, and he tries to run. And look at Bolton doing a great job getting around, which is what forced him to cut it back, because there was some green grass over here. But Bolton did a good job, as his initial rush wasn't working, of coming around and understanding that this gap was open. This is a real cerebral play at this point. He's like, I see the gap. He gets around, and the hesitation allows for Connor to take him down, and the Chiefs get another sack. Now we again have consecutive plays to show you to close out our review of the pass rush. This first one is with 2:01 to go in the fourth quarter, a 2nd and 2 at the Chiefs' 5-yard line. Let's run the play and then we can discuss. We got Stroud in the gun, can't find anywhere to go, and ultimately gets sacked by Felix Anudike-Uzomah. So what happened in this one? This one is a simple 4-man pressure. Nothing exotic from Spags. You can see the Texans are going to run a route combination where they're going to have an out route. They're going to have Schultz come in, and then they're going to have 2 in-cutting routes over here. And the Chiefs are just going to blanket with basically a kind of a cover 4 principle. They're having 4 deeper and 3 underneath defenders. So Stroud takes the snap, hits the back of his drop, and doesn't like what he sees. And at this point, it really seems like the pass rush has just gotten to him, because he's not in any trouble yet in the pocket, and yet doesn't have the patience to wait. You can see his eye level go down. You'll be able to see it even better on the end zone view. But right about now, his eyes drop to the rush. He's not looking at a receiver anymore. He's trying to get out. And I feel like that's really the mark of a quarterback that has been just rattled by a pass rush throughout the day. He's not able to kind of survey, which is unfortunate for him, because John Mechie is about to pop open right here. And if he hangs in there and takes a hit, he's probably going to have a touchdown right here. He's just got to give him, even if you throw this with anticipation over here at this point, that can be a touchdown. But Stroud wants nothing of it. He's not looking at his receivers or anything right now. He's looking at the pass rush, looking for a way to escape. That's what a good rush throughout the course of a game, and for the Chiefs' case, really throughout the course of the fourth quarter especially, they just mentally wear you down. And he wants nothing of it. Him hanging in the pocket allows Anudike-Uzomah to go from rushing around to disengaging and coming back through in the B gap, and he gets a big sack right there. You can see it really from this perspective as watch Stroud, like at this point he's looking for someone to throw to, and watch when that changes right here. His eye level goes down. He initially sees this gap in the B gap, so I think he's trying to get out. But ultimately, like, his mental clock is going. If he had just stood in there, I mean, he probably would have taken a hit, but he would have had Mechie running over, and they would have probably scored a touchdown. So it's unfortunate for the Texans, but the pass rush finally got to Stroud, and that led to this sack. And now we've got the very next play. 1:57 to go in the fourth quarter. Chiefs up 23-12, and the Texans now have a 3rd and 10 at the Chiefs about 13-yard line. So let's run this one and see what happens. We got Stroud in the shotgun, 3 to his left. He's got the running back to his right and Dalton Schultz, the tight end. They shift. Stroud takes the snap. He's looking to his left, and Karlaftis gets him again. Another big sack, bringing up 4th down. So what happened on this one, as you see again, we've got a 4-man rush, nothing exotic with the blitz. And again, the Chiefs run that quarters shell. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and they've got the 3 underneath defenders. The Texans keep Schultz in to block. So ultimately, all their routes are coming from this side of the field. And so you see they have an out route from Nico Collins, and they've got a corner pattern over the top of that. And just an in-cut here from John Mechie. And so the out route in the corner are a little longer developing, especially when Stroud's trying to figure out the leverage, like where exactly they're going to break and at what angle. depending on the coverage. So he needs a minute in the pocket. And so he drops back, hits the back of his drop. And again, he's starting to get a little squirmish. He steps up a little bit where it wasn't really necessary. And Karlaftis is able to break through and get the sack. I think, Stroud would have pretty much been in trouble in any case, even if he stayed back. I think Karlaftis probably would have found his way through this running back. But it was another situation where they slid the protection all the way over to the left. Again, I'm assuming because Bolton came down here. But the protection slide resulted then in Karlaftis being blocked by a tight end and a running back. And he just made him pay. So Stroud has to wait. This isn't a quick route combination. It's 3rd and 10 anyway. He needs a little bit of time. He realizes it's collapsing because he's got Karlaftis come in. He steps up, which improves Karlaftis' angle to get to him. And he just doesn't have a chance. If he had another half a second to a second, he can try to throw this corner route over to the pylon. But Karlaftis closes quickly. And this is really an example of how scheming things up. Having Bolton up here, getting the protection to slide left leads to Karlaftis being taken by a tight end and a running back, which means that for this longer developing play, Karlaftis has enough time to beat that double team of a tight end and a running back and get to Stroud before he's able to get a throw off, leading to 4th down. You can see it here again. You see the check being made here, likely maybe in response to Bolton coming up to the line. Bolton drops back. They slide left. Here's the tackle coming in left, and Karlaftis is just on the tight end. Running back goes to help out, but that's just no match for Karlaftis. Look at him split through, break through, and Stroud waiting for the chance to throw his corner, gets sacked. The Chiefs' pressure was relentless all day, and as you can see from this review, from many different ways. A lot of it was the way that the Chiefs managed to line up and confuse the offensive line in the 4th quarter. But there were a lot of good individual wins from the defensive line too. So although, most offensive lines will probably be a little bit more on top of things than the Texans line were, there were a couple miscommunications or questionable decisions that we talked about through this review. Steve Spagnuolo, though, has shown the ability to confuse offensive line protections throughout, even veteran quality offensive lines. They just might not make as grave errors as the Texans did. But even if that comes into play, it's nice to see guys like Remigio, guys like Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, even FAU making individual wins in the pass rush, and hopefully that will continue through the playoffs. All right, so after the deep dive into the Chiefs pass rush, let's come back to the second quarter. We're at 4:39 to go in the second quarter. The Chiefs have a 3rd and goal at the Texans' 1-yard line, and at this point in the game, they are up 6-3, nearing the end of the second quarter. Let's take a look at this play, and then let's break it down. He's got Mahomes in shotgun. He sends Worthy across the formation, signals him to come back, takes the snap and hands it to Kareem Hunt, who's able to walk it in for a touchdown, and the Chiefs go up 13-3 at this juncture. All right, so what happened on this play? This play was, if you watch the Fox broadcast of the Commanders' win over the Lions, you will see Tom Brady talking a lot about Jaden Daniels having what he called triple options, where he had the option to hand off, to run, or to throw a pass. And this play is that kind of play. This is an RPO with a zone read together, what Brady was referring to as a triple option. So Patrick Mahomes has 3 things that can happen on this play. He can hand it off to Kareem Hunt, they have a run play designed here. He can keep it himself and run it, or he's got Xavier Worthy going to the flat and Hollywood Brown on an out route. If he likes one of those options, then he can throw it over there. So the kind of order of operations here, let's kind of get into the blocking scheme to help us understand how the Chiefs are going to do this. They're going to leave this edge unblocked, and he's going to be Mahomes' initial read. So the way they're going to block this up, they've got Joe Thuney blocking here. Caliendo is going to come and pull and get this edge over here. Creed is going to block him straight up. Trey Smith him straight up. Jawan Taylor him straight up. Noah Gray will come here to help seal the edge for the run, and then he'll come and try to get a second level defender. Travis Kelce is also going to pull, and he's going to lead Kareem Hunt. So really what you're trying to set up here as far as run design, so they run Worthy over and then back. And so see, you've got Caliendo pulling to hit that edge. These guys are basically just trying to create a wall, and Noah Gray's helping seal off that edge. So the idea is to seal off here, kick this guy out, hopefully have one defender in the hole and have Travis Kelce go get him. If other people come down, that's where after sealing this edge, Noah Gray is going to come out and help block over there. And it all works to perfection here on the blocking scheme. You can see Gray does an excellent job here of after sealing the edge, watch him go over, and he really kind of occupies both of these defenders long enough that Hunt is able to just scoot right in. I think Kelce thinks that Hunt is going to follow him, so he kind of comes up here to the defender, but Hunt takes it to the outside, so the defender just sidesteps to try to go after Hunt. Not that it really matters at this point. I mean, Hunt's in the end zone. Everything's blocked up so well. But they did a great job here of creating that wall so that Caliendo taking out the edge created a nice hole for Hunt to just be able to run right by, and Noah Gray really occupying almost three defenders kind of at this point. All three of these guys are having trouble getting over to Hunt because of Noah Gray's presence, and Hunt's able to walk it in. So now that we've seen the blocking scheme and how it was set up, let's go into the options that Mahomes had here. So they're intentionally getting Worthy on the run so that he can have a running start going out into the flat. And so Mahomes' reads are first the unblocked defensive end over here. So as he takes the snap and he's at the mesh point with Kareem Hunt, he's trying to see, is this guy crashing or is he staying put? If Will Anderson is firing down the line of scrimmage, Mahomes isn't going to hand this ball off, and he's going to come out here. In this case, Will Anderson hung out here, and so that's why Mahomes handed it off. He took option one on the play, and that's it. He's got a touchdown. If he hadn't handed it off, that's where, if at this position here, assuming Will Anderson's crashed and Mahomes still has the ball, he has to quickly make a decision about whether he's going to throw it to one of these guys or he's going to try to run it himself. In this situation, just based on how everybody's moving, now it's hard to tell if these second-level defenders would all be over there because Hunt has the ball, so of course they're going to crash. If one person had kind of hung out and stayed here, that's where you think Mahomes just hangs back and tries to see if one of these guys, he can hit one of them. I mean, it looks like Hollywood Brown is going to be open right here. He's won enough that there's a window to throw it there. However, if it stays like it did, like let's say the defenders crashed over, that's where you'd think Mahomes would just run this in. Or he'd start challenging the line of scrimmage, and if a defender came up, then he'd just throw a touchdown behind him. So that's the play design. It was a nice play design. Mahomes is able to just take option one, and the Chiefs blocked it extremely well down here. So Hunt's just able to walk in for a touchdown. We can see it from the end zone cam as well. Remember the blocking scheme here. Thuney's going to block here. Caliendo is going to pull and get Danielle Hunter. Thuney's going to block here. Smith block here. Taylor block here. And Gray seals the edge and then comes up to try to prevent any traffic from coming over. Travis Kelce pulls, and he's the lead blocker to try to hit anyone who's preventing Hunt from getting through the hole. Again, to start, look at Mahomes. He's reading Will Anderson right here. So had Will Anderson crashed, Mahomes would have held it. Since Will Anderson stayed, Mahomes hands this off. And here's Caliendo with the lead block. A thing that's underrated too, if you watch as Hunt's trying to get past Caliendo, Kareem Hunt has such good agility in small spaces. He just doesn't get tripped up by stuff like this. In fact, let's look at it from the wide view. Look at Hunt is so good in these little areas about just making sure he can keep going forward, doesn't get tripped up. It looks like Hunter actually might even have tried to trip him right here as he kind of swung around. Hard to tell, but he kind of swings his leg out like that. But that kind of stuff, while it might get other running backs, it doesn't get Kareem Hunt. He's very agile, very good at changing direction and avoiding contact. And when he does get contacted, his balance is so good in these small areas. So you see it here again. Hunt gets through. Then you see Noah Gray coming off. And look at him able to basically prevent any of these three from realistically making a play. Al-Shaair is the one that comes across. Kelce's ready to take him head on, but he doesn't see that Hunt's going that way. So Al-Shaair is just like, well, I'll sidestep. Doesn't matter in this case. They've done enough for the touchdown, and that's it. Chiefs go up 13-3. So the last play of this week's film review comes from 1:52 to go in the fourth quarter. The Texans are down 23-12, and they have a 4th down and 14 to go from about the 17-yard line of the Chiefs. They decide to attempt a field goal here, down 11, hoping that they can make this to make it an 8-point game, and then hopefully for them recover an onside kick and get a chance to score a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Let's run this field goal play, and then we'll break it down. As you probably remember, the kick was blocked. It was Leo Chanel that blocked it. Jaden Hicks picked it up and got out of bounds to essentially, at that point, seal the victory. So how did they block this kick? Now, you all might notice a similarity to a blocked kick from earlier this year that preserved a Chiefs win against the Broncos at home. And it was Leo Chanel again blocking the kick. And it's actually done very similarly. So Justin Reed is a big threat on the outside, mainly because he gets off the snap so fast. Look at how he's moving before everyone else is moving, to the point that when Kaimi Fairbairn missed a 55-yarder early in the game, the Texans were complaining because they thought he was offsides. However, when you slow it down and watch it, he's actually just timing it perfectly. Like, he's moving as the center is moving to snap the ball. It's perfect timing. He's just getting off the snap exactly when the ball is being snapped. But because of that, teams have to devote a little bit of attention to him going around the edge, which creates the possibility for the Chiefs to really hit the next guy in. And they've done this before. I think they identified a weak link against Denver. And here it's Leo Chanel that they kind of charge with actually going in and delivering the brunt of the blow. So you've got Connor coming in to his outside shoulder. You've got Karlaftis coming into his inside shoulder. And Chanel just comes through him. And you don't get any help from here because they're so worried about Justin Reed, who has blocked kicks, just coming around the edge. In this case, Justin Reed really kind of gets held. Kind of grab him around the neck, which, some of that is kind of par for the course on field goal block. You'll notice a lot of people blocking with their outstretched arm. So I don't know that is something that would be typically called on a field goal block, but this one does seem particularly egregious. Anyway, look at Leo Chanel and the movement that he's able to generate on 75. He gets low. He's pushed him back. And then the way that he's able to do this, so 75, look where his feet start. So he's somewhere just close to the 17-yard line, or the 18-yard line, I should say. Here's 19. Here's the 18-yard line. He might be just a hair behind the 18-yard line. Now let's see where his feet are when Chanel jumps to block this kick. His back foot already is past the 20-yard line. So he's moved him about 2 yards back. And then look at the ability to jump with it and then block that kick. That's huge. And now he's done it twice this year in big spots, getting a hand on the kick and ending the game for the Chiefs. Now let's watch it from the end zone view. You can see it a little more clearly. So Reed's going to go around the edge. Connor's hitting this shoulder. Chanel's going right through him, and Karlaftis is hitting that shoulder. And just look at the push that Leo Chanel is able to get. Look at him. So move him right back. And then with that left hand, he's able to block it. Justin Reed actually got pretty close, even with being kind of wrapped around the neck. But look at that, Chanel getting his hand on there and blocking it. So the other thing I want to draw your attention to on this play is the ball placement is key. They're kicking here from the offense's right hash. So the kick will travel in a left direction from the offense's perspective, right? So notice the intentionality of this rush. The Chiefs are intending to block the kick from this side. It's not like everybody's rushing the same. First of all, look at how they're overloaded here. They've got 3 to this side of the center, and they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to this side. And then look at the rush on this side. Like, this is a lot more kind of casual of a rush. They're just kind of occupying their defenders. Joshua Williams doesn't even come around the edge on his rush. So, like, the Chiefs came in to this play being like, we are going to block the kick from here. It's basically one of these 4 guys, and they're doing it because the ball's on this hash, and they know the direction of the kick is probably going to be in this direction. I mean, it's possible to kick one straight, but you think there was going to be at least a little bit of a lean to try to get toward the middle of the uprights. So this is all very calculated as far as why the Chiefs rushed like this at this point, and they blocked this kick. And for comparison's sake, let's take a look at the block kick against Denver earlier this year. So here we are. This was the last play of the game when the Chiefs beat the Broncos in Kansas City. This kick would have won the game for Denver. And again, look at how they're lined up. It's the same except that Jack Cochran is in where Shamari Connor was. Jack Cochran's now on IR out for the season, so Shamari Connor has taken his place here. But it's the same idea. They threaten with Reed outside to widen the end defender, and then the other 3 guys target this defender right here. Again, ball placement. Offense's right hash. So they know the kick is going in this direction. So here, Chanel is able to really kind of bowl over. So again, he's the one that's delivering the brunt of the blow. And he's able to just bowl this guy over. And look at how he knocks him over and then is able to leap. I mean, he got so much more traction even. Interestingly, it's almost the same place on the field. We were talking about how he was at the 18-yard line on the Texans play. Well, look, it's between the 18 and the 19-yard line here. And this guy just gets rocked. Chanel is jumping from around nearly at the 20-yard line and able to block. Look at how he blocked this one with like his wrist. He got so deep. And this is his right hand instead of his left hand. So against Denver, he really got penetration and got into there to block this kick. But again, it's the same idea. Look at the rush from this side. It's not nearly as intense. This is intentional. They're targeting this spot because I think they noticed that this guy was a weak link. If you remember from discourse during that week, he had fallen over on a lot of kick attempts earlier in the year for the Broncos. So they were intentionally targeting him. But also, the kick is going to go left because they're on the right hash. So as you can see, this play looks very similar. The Chiefs did a better job of getting in there and really leaving no doubt that they were going to block that kick in this instance. But it's the same schemed up play targeting the same weak spot of the line. And always remember that part of this is Justin Reed's ability to get off really quickly and widen. So you see the gap that's created here by the attention paid to Justin Reed. It makes it easier to isolate 3 on 1 and allow Chanel to use his strength to bowl through and block the kick. Thanks so much for watching. And thanks to all of you who download our podcast wherever it is you download podcasts, or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at STCF715. We're looking forward to the Chiefs-Bills AFC Championship game. We'll have a breakdown after that, and of course we'll have this week's Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings podcast coming out soon as well. Until next time.